Welcome, 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 everybody, to this week's live stream. I'm going to let more people get in the room. We have 10 people here. Welcome, everybody. I apologize that I didn't do this on Sunday. I was out of town. Actually, I went back to the States for a couple of days. I had to do some personal business. Um, just a little update, like I always give you guys on my live streams at the very beginning. I'm still in Monterrey, Mexico, and uh, I went ahead. I wanted to go ahead and do this week's live stream today because today I had my PET scan, so I couldn't do it on Monday. We were driving back on Monday. Hey, John, how's it going? Um, we weren't able to make it back on Monday, and Sunday I was kind of busy. I had to do some personal things. Today I got my 5-year PET scan. Hopefully everything comes out right, fine. I'm gonna have a my results on Friday. Tomorrow I have to meet with an ophthalmologist because I'm getting cataracts. I think it's from the radiation from the cancer. That's what the ophthalmologist thinks. Hey, John, how's it going? uh, and Wednesday I get my tooth pulled. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be on next Sunday, but I'm going to try everything I can. Hopefully I won't be all swollen, but supposedly the thing is I had to get a PET scan and everything else. It's going to be a little bit more complex on my tooth because when you radiate this area in my jaw, in the jaw and the neck area, because it was head and neck cancer, um, you kind of kill the blood vessels there. So um, it becomes very, very risky because when you pull the tooth, you need blood to heal. So, but they're saying that they seem to give me a good prognosis of getting the tooth pulled out. But other than that, hey, Stephanie, how's it going? Other than that, I'm still in Monterrey. Hopefully, next Sunday, I'll have a live stream. And then I will be traveling back the following week if everything goes fine with my tooth. My surgery for the eyes, I'm not going to get it done now, but I have to get I guess they scan the topical surface of your eyes to see what type of lenses fit when they replace the lens in your eyes. So I've been pretty busy, needless to say. Um, but like I said, I wanted to stay focused on trying to give you guys the best experience. I hope you guys can. Hey, Rick, how's it going? Apparently, you can hear me. I hope you can. I'm using a different kind of software. Like I told you last week, I only brought my iPad. I didn't bring my laptop with the fancy software. I'm using a web-based software, which is really good, actually. And so I'm using that right now, but it kind of has the same features as my other software, but I'm just more comfortable with it. The other issue I had is this microphone that I have right here. Um, it's cooked up into my iPad, which is kind of it. There's some software, but for some reason it was glitching out today. I was kind of worried that it wasn't going to work. But today we're going to talk about, and I know I get on this Dollar app, Coba.ai, Fintech apps. The reason why I'm going to talk about it is because a good friend of mine this weekend, who's in the fintech community, not fintech community, but he's in the technology community. He sent me, he knows that I've been keeping up with the Dollar app and all these. Hey, Texas refugee, Bruno, how's it going? From Massachusetts. And he knows that I've been keeping up with this. And he said, hey, guess what? I got some news for you. And I'm like, okay. Synapse, and I've already talked about this, the one of the financial providers, they provide the platform. Basically, I'm going to explain to you what a fintech app is for those of you who haven't followed me before on this. But Synapse, who provides the platform for these apps, and actually the Dollar app was using Synapse at one point until Synapse was almost went bankrupt and everything else, and a bunch of people's money got held up, and then they changed to another financial platform. And I don't know if those people ever got their money back. So I want to explain these fintech apps because they're becoming very popular because they're ways of skirting banking regulations, and they're also ways of supposedly saving you money because I can send my dollars to pesos to my Mexican account a lot cheaper than Wise, XE, and a lot of these other services. But a lot of people don't understand, with technology and everything else. Hey, I got a phone app that does that, and they don't realize that these providers, like the Dollar app, the other one is Coba AI, that I think is very popular. They're just a company that puts a front end, and they rely on someone else to do the work for them. And the problem with these fintech apps, since they're not, if the bank goes under, if they have issues, if the company that they're using goes bankrupt, you're pretty much out of luck when it comes to your money. Hey, Cindy, how's it going? So when the Dollar app came out, and they're very heavy on marketing, they marketed. Actually, they even reached out to me. Um, after I did some videos, and they said, "Hey, why don't we'll sponsor you and give you money, and so you can quit talking bad about us," basically. But it wasn't that I have anything against the company in general. I just have against the platform. It utilizes cryptocurrency. That's another thing the Dollar app does. Kobo AI doesn't, but it's a fintech app, and it is also, how would you say, prone to the same vulnerabilities. So I decided to go over this because first going to give you the news, and then we're going to go over fintech apps, and I'm going to tell you why they're not advisable. Yes, you're going to save a couple of extra dollars. Yes, maybe your transfer is going to cost you $2 or $5 versus $10. But the problem is that $9 savings may cost you your whole money transfer. Okay. So let's say you're transferring $1,000. You may lose that $1,000 in an effort to save $9. And I know some of you are strapped, and I know many people like to save money. But one of the things I try to stress is this is not the way to save money. Um, and I know there's other solutions. There's people that don't even open up Mexican bank accounts, and I'm going to give you a couple of what I do and what solutions that possibly you could have, um, to where you don't have to spend as much money transferring. Uh, so we're going to go over that today. And I thought, and that's why I came on live. I was going to wait till next week, like I normally do. Like, I'm very busy, and I am. I actually have to get up tomorrow morning and go to more doctor's appointments. I'm trying to get on my doctor. John, how's it going? uh, and I'm trying to get all this stuff done, but I said, shoot, I have to get this done because I need to give another warning. The reason why I feel I need to give another warning is because maybe you didn't watch my videos from a year ago. A lot of times too, with Mexico being such a changing atmosphere, well, my video may not actually be relevant anymore. So I want to bring us up to the relevancy. Things haven't changed as far as how relevant my old previous videos are. If you want to go into my previous videos about fintech, about the Dollar app, um, the Dollar app is one of those apps that has been promoted by several influencers, big influencers, um, and also other YouTubers. And it's very, very common to see their ads on Instagram and on Facebook. So it's very easy to fall into this. Hey, I found a better way to move money, and cheap. It's super cheap, and it's really easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into what a fintech app is. Okay. Hey, Lambden, how's it going? I'm going to go into what a fintech app is, and then from going into what a fintech app is, I'm going to go into why it's dangerous, because Synapse, one of the fintech companies, basically went bankrupt, that provides the platform. And people, the article that he sent me, there's been people that have no, that have lost their money, and lost their money for it's now going on a year now, that they still have not been able to recuperate their money, even through the bankruptcy. In other words, because when you file bankruptcy, sometimes the people that you owe money to can recoup the money. They give it into a conservatorship, and the conservatorship tries to find the people that they owe money to, so that you can so that basically, hey, Michael, so that basically you can actually get your money back, or not told the full amount. But what they do is they usually liquidate the assets of the company, and then they give you maybe a penny on the dollar back, your money back. And I do know that some people in the Dollar app, because the Dollar app was using Synapse, there are some. Trustpilot reviews where people lost upwards of $60,000. Now, I'm going to explain to you what a fintech app is, and I'm going to kind of give you a warning not to use fintech, but at the same time, Wise, which is very popular, is a fintech app. And I might say, oh, you're better off using Wise than using the Dollar app. But I'm going to explain why. Okay. It's not a thing of don't use fintech at all, because maybe fintech is the only solution of transferring money over, but you need to be careful. Okay. Wise is a fintech app, but it's very heavily regulated. XE Currency, they're fintech apps, but they're heavily regulated. But the problem with the Dollar app, Coba.ai, literally the Dollar app is a couple of guys at an office. It's not even a major company. Revolut is the same thing, but Revolut is a little bit more. They've gotten in trouble. They're now being they've been investigated, but they're coming up to date with banking regulations and trying to get straight out. And the people that started the Dollar app actually came from Revolut. Actually, they took off from Revolut when Revolut was under investigation. I don't know if maybe they didn't want to be part of the investigation or what happened, or they decided we're just going to start our own in Mexico. And maybe they even said we're going to go start our own in Mexico because it's the Wild West. And we don't want to do it in the United States because then we'll get investigated and people will start looking at us. So let's just do it this other way. So we have to maneuver this very cautiously. What a fintech app is basically there's companies that offer kind of banking services. Okay, they and in because I used to be I have my degree in computer science, so I'm not only a former law enforcement officer, but I have a tech background. Now, what happens is these apps provide, I'm not apps, but these companies provide a back end. Okay, there's what they call a front end. That's when you go to www.dollarapp.com or www.coba.ai, you see the front end of the app. That's the stuff you see. When you say, or Wise, even if you go to the Wise app or even an app, if it's the Dollar app, it's an actual app. The app is your front end, okay? The company, the Dollar app, provides that front end and and provides the service to you. But of course, when you deposit your money, you have to have money taken out of your bank account. Then it's got to be transferred, whatever, to the cryptocurrency, like Dollar App says. And then from the cryptocurrency, you move it over into your Mexican account. Okay. And it works if everything is going fine. When it doesn't work, you lose your money. There's no insurance on this stuff. And so basically, what they do is they hire a company that does the back end. Actually, Michael's just explaining it right now. You've got an IT background, Michael. Is the front end is the interface and the visuals, and the back end is the mechanics behind both visuals and features. Okay, Michael said it just perfectly. Okay, thank you, Michael, for that one. And the problem is when you get onto this app, you think the Dollar app is doing everything because you get in there and you say transfer money, blah, 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 blah. And then when you transfer money, it automatically just kind of magically appears into your account. And so you think the Dollar app is doing something there. They're doing everything. And so, yeah, John, fellow nerd here, I have a BS in computer science. That's what I got my BS in, even though I went into law enforcement. I ended up using it later on with cybercrime. I ran a cybercrimes unit in Phoenix. And then not only that, but I ran IT projects for my agency. And I also was doing computer forensics for my agency. So yeah, I got to use it. I don't have a master's. I just have I just got my degree and went straight into law enforcement. But basically, what happens on this front end and this back end is, let's say you deposit some money, the actual financial transactions being done by the back end. Okay, I'm trying to give a simple explanation, but This is a contract company. So what happens if you lose your money? You go to the Dollar app and say, "Hey, where's my money?" And the Dollar app says, "Sorry, we didn't have anything to do with it. They lost your money." Okay. And the problem with a lot of these back end companies, there's one called Synapse that went bankrupt last year. That was who the Dollar app was using. Actually, on their website, they were bragging about how they were using uh, uh, Synapse to do all of their money transfers, taking money out of the bank. And basically, what happened a while back is the banks that Synapse were using were saying, "Hey, you don't have." And I actually, the CEO of this company was very questionable. I've pulled up articles about him, and I even said this to everybody, and everybody said, "No, it works great." But what happened with Synapse is the bank said, "Hey, you don't have any good accounting practices. You're not telling us which money belongs to who. We're going to hold your money." Okay. We're not going to give it to you. We're not going to transfer it. We're not going to do anything with it. And so Synapse ended up with a problem of cash flow. Okay. But they kept taking deposits. All right. But they weren't transferring the money because they didn't have any money to transfer because their money. And I think what they tried to do is pull a quick, let's change banks. Actually, the Dollar app was stuck in this because a lot of people had their deposits held or whatever, and Dollar App said, "Oh, it's because we're changing banks." The Dollar App was not changing banks. It was the back end they were changing back end companies. Okay. And actually, even when someone said, "Hey, my money got," in another YouTuber, he said, "Oh no, they were just changing banks." It wasn't the Dollar App changing banks. The Dollar App was scrambling to change their back end company so they could keep the money flowing. The problem is those people who lost their money with Synapse can't get it back, and they haven't gotten it back. And it's been almost, I think, a year or 2 years that nobody's gotten their money back. And when I advised on this Dollar app, my first concern was the use of USDC, uh, uh, the cryptocurrency. First of all, it's called USDC, so you kind of think it's cryptocurrency backed by the U.S., but it has nothing to do with the U.S. And with the way they were getting around the banking, and they still do, is they transfer the money. When you take out money and you transfer it over to your Mexican account with the Dollar app, you're technically buying cryptocurrency, which they never have shown proof that you're buying it. They just say you are. And then that cryptocurrency gets sold on in Mexico and put into your. So they skirt because there's you have to have in the United States to transfer money. And actually, this is a problem that Wise ran into is they had to get a money remitter's license, and Wise even had to kind of there was an interruption in service for a little while, and Wise had to come up with uh, they had to start coming up to date on the regulations so that they could technically become a money transmitter. Because even though they have a back end company doing the money transmission, Wise is still the company liable for following the regulations in the law. The Dollar app says, "Oh, we don't have to follow banking or law legal regulations because we're buying cryptocurrency. It just so happens that we're selling it in Mexico." Okay. So really, no money was transferred. Money was just purchased, cryptocurrency was purchased, and it was sold, but it was just sold in another country. That's how they get around the money transfer laws. But here's the thing, and I've always said this, and I don't know, they've never made it on the radar of federal law enforcement. But even if you try to skirt regulations like that, money is still going from the United States to Mexico. Regardless, it's still a violation of money laundering laws in the United States. That's the bottom line. They are actually violating federal law in the United States by doing this, even though they have a technicality. Now, whether the United States has done anything about it, investigated them, I don't know. But that's where you run into some problems because let's take out, I really don't care whether they get investigated or don't get investigated, but what happens to your money if they do get investigated and then all of a sudden the federal government seizes seizes all these bank accounts and seizes these bank accounts in the back end because they still can seize the bank accounts in the back end. You don't get your money; it's frozen, and you'll probably never see it again. And I know a lot of people say, well, I transfer small amounts, but even small amounts, even if you transfer $500, $1,000, that for some people living on a fixed income here in Mexico is a lot of money. Okay. Um, so, and I did advise if you're going to use it, please don't use large amounts. And all the assets will be withheld, and they can be withheld from the, so you have a double whammy. If the front end company gets in trouble, the back end company gets all the assets frozen. If the back end company gets in trouble, they can't come up with the money. They spent it somewhere else. FTX is a perfect example. They took in a bunch of people's money and they were investing it in other stuff that, or they were stealing it really. Um, then if the back end company steals the money, the front end company is going to say, sorry, we didn't have anything to do with it. It was a back end company. Go talk to them. So you need to be very careful. And Koba AI is the same thing. Now, what else is a fintech app? I concentrated on the dollar app because it uses cryptocurrency, but a fintech app, I don't know if you've seen all of these. Koba AI purports himself to be a bank. Okay. And there's a lot of these BlockFi. There's a bunch of these quote online only banks. Okay. Some of them, they do comply with federal regulations. Some of them don't. Some of them, or they utilize the ones that comply with the regulations is the back end company, not the front end company, because the back end company is the one that's accepting the money, transferring the money, and everything else. Okay, so I'm kind of riding on the permission of someone else, if that makes sense. Okay, um, and so that's where I say, even these online banks, and they will say, your money is FDIC insured. But here's the catch, you're not FDIC insured. The back end company is FDIC insured. Okay. Let me repeat, your money is not FDIC insured. The money is deposited by the back end company, and the back end company is FDIC insured. Okay. So let's say they go bankrupt. Let's say something happens. Okay. You can't collect your money on the FDIC insurance. The only one that can collect the money is the back end company. But if the back end company has ripped off a bunch of money, gone broke, taken the money and ran, you are out of luck. You can't go to the FDIC and say, I deposited money in the bank and I need my money back. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense to everybody. So basically, if anything happens with these online banks or apps, your money is gone. Let me repeat, your money is gone. There's no way to recuperate it. And if you recuperate it, like what's going on with Synapse, it'll probably take 5 or 6 years and you'll probably get pennies on the dollar. Okay? Because that's the way a bankruptcy works, or that's the way sometimes what happens if they take the money, if this company takes the money and runs, then they may seize some assets, sell the assets. 10 years later, you might see a check for $5 on your $10,000. Okay? Because they have to pay out everybody that they defrauded. Okay? So that's why you need to be very careful. Now, I'm talking bad in a sense, or be careful with these fintech apps, but then I say use an established company, one like Wise. And then you're going to say, well, Ernie, you say that Wise is a fintech company too. And it is. Okay. But Wise usually, and actually, Wise was using Synapse at one point, but they were using Synapse before Synapse had problems. They actually quit using Synapse for to meet regulatory, uh, I guess, regulatory regulations. Okay, so when they went to go meet the regulatory regulations, they had to get rid of Synapse. As a matter of fact, they even sent an email. I received an email saying, I know you heard about Synapse going bankrupt. We haven't used Synapse since 2022 or 2021. And so, hey, Tom, how's it going? We don't use it anymore, but, and your passwords weren't compromised, your information. And that's another thing. Um, your passwords are, if you sign up for an account, you give your password and you make a password. The front end company is not the one that has a password. The back end company is the one that has a password, the one that's managing your money. So, but sometimes front end companies will make a security system that interfaces with. So sometimes your data is secure, sometimes it's not. It depends how careless the front end company is when they're setting all this stuff up. You got to remember, it's all for them, it's all about marketing. They just have to find the customers and put together some type of interface for you or application for you to log on to. So this is where you need to be very careful. Here's my warning, and this is what I tell you. If you have an app like the Dollar app that says we use cryptocurrency and it's really safe and actually gets you money faster and it's cheaper, and the cryptocurrency we buy because it's USDC, which is supposed $1 to $1. So if the cryptocurrency is not going to go broke because you get $1 per $1, it's not one of those things. The thing is, a cryptocurrency can crash. It doesn't matter how much they tell you. Um, no matter how much they tell you that, oh, don't worry, it's a dollar per dollar. Yeah, but if the cryptocurrency doesn't exist anymore because someone went and robbed it all or took it all, then guess what? It's not worth anything. It doesn't matter how many tokens you own. So you need to understand that that is also a risk. If you have somebody that uses cryptocurrency like the Dollar app or Coba AI that's trying to become established and that's not even 2 years old or a year old, don't use the app. Now, if Coba AI 10 years from now establishes a business like Wise that's been around for a long time, that's been through regulatory scrutiny, that's met regulatory stuff, not just regulatory on the back end, but regulatory on their end, then, as a matter of fact, even Wise now won't. I've heard that they won't let you transfer to Intercam or certain banks, and all of that has to do with regulatory problems. Okay, and they make sure, and then also they do KYC where you have to give them an ID and all of that stuff. Know your customer. So if Coba AI matures and becomes a legitimate business, then yeah, use them. But if you find an app that's been around for 6 months, especially Kobe AI reached out to me. Actually, they reached out to several influencers, and they also wanted to do the same thing for us to push it and tell how great it is. Okay. And one of the marketing props is that we can give you a Mexican credit card. And what you need to understand, it's not a Mexican credit. Wise has a credit card too, but even Wise has had to not enable you to use it in certain places or issue it in certain places because they're meeting the regulations of that country. So what you need to understand is you're not, and you're getting a Visa card, a prepaid Visa card is all it is. Okay. Works the same as your Visa card in the United States. Okay. So if you already have a Visa card in the United States, you're not going to get any advantages over having a quote, fintech or dollar app credit card because all it is a Visa card. Okay. And it's a Visa card, a secured Visa card on your money that you're holding. So if you're in the dollar app and you want a $4,000 credit limit, you need to have $4,000 sitting in USDC in the dollar app. Okay, so like I said, what happens if the dollar app goes under? You lose your $4,000 that you have that secures this credit card. Okay, so there, and then here's the other thing too. These credit cards, such as even Wise, that you can use in Mexico, and some of these credit cards, there's certain services such as CFE. There's certain services and certain places that will only accept Mexican bank credit cards. I repeat, Mexican banks such as BBVA, Banorte, Santander. Like if you want to pay your CFE bill, you can't pay it, or you can pay it with a Mercado Libre card, I believe, but you cannot pay it with a Wise card. You cannot pay it with a Dollar App card. You cannot pay it with a Coba AI card. Okay, even though they say it's a Mexican credit card, it's a Visa card, not a Mexican credit card. It's not backed by a Mexican bank. It's not from a Mexican bank. It's a Visa card. It's backed by Visa. Okay, so anywhere they accept Visa. So I got a Visa card from the United States. I can use it in Mexico. Okay, there's no difference. All right, I'm repeating to you guys so you understand. All right. So if you're saying, well, what do I do? Uh, well, there are several solutions. Okay. One solution is one of the big solutions is people don't get a Mexican bank account at all, and they use their Charles Schwab debit card to buy groceries. I have a Charles Schwab debit card. They and if they need to pay anything like their CFE bill, they go take the cash out of their Charles Schwab credit card out of the ATM. Charles Schwab will give you uh, the current rate, and they will also refund you any ATM fees. So what do people do? Oh, if I need cash, I go get cash out of the debit card, and I get the current exchange rate from Charles Schwab. That's one. Or if I need to go buy groceries, they take it at the grocery store. Okay, that's what I use my Charles Schwab card for. I load it with. I have an allotment to my Charles Schwab card, and I use that to buy groceries. Okay, and I have a Mexican credit card too. The other solution is getting a Mexican bank account. Many people feel that they need one. The money transfer system where you transfer money back and forth. We just bought a truck and a car, and the way we paid it, because we couldn't pay it in cash, is by transferring money from our Mexican bank account to our Mexican bank account to their Mexican bank, the car dealership's Mexican bank account, and purchased the car. So there's a lot of things that you might want in Mexican bank, and then not only that, but even when you pay for services. For example, even when I go to see my doctor, sometimes I've done virtual appointments, and I say, "Hey, can I send you a money transfer to pay for my consult?" And you get on the phone and you transfer money just like if you would in Cash App or Zelle, that type of thing. Um, so that's basically another solution. Brett Jones here. Great to see you again, Brett. Glad to see you. Is go to Oxxo, get a debit card. It's called Spin. And actually they have an app. You can actually load it through the app. There's another one from I believe Claro, which is a cell phone company. They're not here, but I think they're connected with Telcel. Claro Pay. They have a credit card. It's a prepaid credit card that you loaded up, or a prepaid loaded debit card. You that credit card, and there's a lot of people that don't have the resources. Maybe they don't have enough money to be putting in the bank account, or they're always using 99% of their bank account. They use the spin card, and they just go to Oxxo, and if they get paid that day 3,000 pesos for a job, they go and they load the card. Also, when you transfer money, like for example, on my banking app, when let's say the gardener comes, or I don't know, the plumber comes and says, "Hey, you can send me a money transfer. That'll be 1,000 pesos." Some of those people will give me a spin card. You can actually, with a debit card number, transfer money using the debit card. And we've been successful in transferring money to their spin card. So that's another solution. Actually, that's a great solution that Brett has given. Um, and also, I have another friend. What he does is he actually uses Wise to pay his rent. So what he does is he tells his landlord, "What's your Mexican bank account?" And he transfers the money straight to his landlord's Mexican bank account. So um, you can use that too. Okay, so there's several solutions. My thing is, and the problem that I see on Facebook, and I'm gonna get to your questions now, and I think I'm gonna finish with my fintech uh, explanation, and I'll take your questions. Um, the one thing that um, I get very frustrated with is everybody talks about the spin, not the spin, the dollar app as being this. Oh, well, why is this too expensive? My money transfers cost me $10 to transfer money, and I can transfer money in the dollar app for $1, and I save $9. And these people are so intent that they're saving $9 that it's worth it. And I'm like, you know what? It's not worth it when your $2,000 doesn't show up on the other side, or even your $500 doesn't show up on the other side on your bank account because your money was lost. And that $500, you're living on a $1,500 a month income, maybe here in Mexico. $500 is a lot of money to lose because somebody took the money and ran. The back end company went bankrupt. And you need to understand that these back end companies are a dime a dozen. The Dollar app has gone through, I think, at least two. At least two. They've actually switched. They actually moved from one to the next. Okay. So what happens if you get stuck in oh, well, the last one went bankrupt and we're using a new one and sorry, your money's gone. That's the reality. So just be careful. And this just reminded me to bring this up again. And I don't want to beat a dead horse per se, but it's worth mentioning because one of my when my friend brought this up and sent me the thing on Synap, and actually he was the guest, one of my guests when we were talking about the Dollar app, uh, and actually people like Kuru Paul, um, the guy out of Merida, they still have links to sign up because they get their little what do you call it, referral links. So you might think it's legitimate because this big YouTuber has the link on his description. I don't know if he does anymore. I know that Kuru Paul is more doing his Spanish lessons now. He's got a and actually, I suggest if you want to learn Spanish, he's got some really really good Spanish lessons. And he's back in the States now, so he doesn't do as much content on Mexico. So I don't know if he still has those links there. But you might think, oh, it's legit because this YouTuber has these links. But you need to understand they're making money off the links. And not only that, but maybe they don't understand how fintech really works. Okay. And even if they say, I've used the service, well, yeah, it works 80% or 90% of the time until the 1% or 2% or 10% that the company goes uh, the company goes broke and then you lose your money. So, it's just one of those things. Um, so I'm going to go into answering your questions uh, before I get to it. Let me go back here because I know uh, Lance was saying my thoughts on Wise or the best exchange rate. Lance, I personally use Wise. To be honest with you, I use my Charles Schwab debit card to buy groceries. I just basically put so much money on allotment of my pension into my swap card and I buy groceries. I also have a Mexican bank account because but in order to get the money to my Mexican bank account, I do use Wise. Remitly, is actually Zoom's owned by PayPal. If I'm not mistaken, I've used them once or twice. Their exchange rate is not that good unless they've gotten better. Uh, Wise was the best exchange rate. The Remitly and Wise kind of compete. I just like the convenience of Wise. I have it hooked up to the bank accounts that I have in the United States are, I guess they have a system, their back end system is really good because I literally get my transfer in my Mexican bank account within a couple of, maybe even a minute. Most of them are immediate. Now I have that Wise has had their issues, but they made it good. As a matter of fact, I know that Wise went down. I did a video on when they went down, but nobody lost money. Okay, these are the things you want to look for if you're looking into using a fintech company, because a lot of times these fintech companies are your only solution. I mean, Remitly's a fintech. Actually, well, with the exception of Western Union, which I advise you never use because they have a money laundering system that flags everything over a certain amount of money. And before you know it, you're sending in your social security number, your copy of your social security number, copy. And I'm not kidding. Even though you do it once, they'll do it and they blame the Mexican banks. And it's not the Mexican banks. It's Western Union that's doing it. But they always say, oh, no, it's because the Mexican bank won't accept your money. We need to get all the information. Where did the money come from? They have a and it's very understandable. I'm not going to put down Western Union. Um, you need to understand that money remittances coming from other countries into the United States usually are utilizing Western Union. A lot of money laundering is going on. So they are very, very strict. Okay. So they're strict for a reason. But trust me, you don't want to get stuck in the strictness or whatever you might say of their money laundering program. So, and Remitly, my brother-in-law uses Remitly. He swears by it, and he gets a better exchange rate. Um, XE, XE Currency, they have an app. I use the XE Currency app to get the current exchange rate. They're have a money transfer service. The top three that I would use, and I only use Wise because it's just something that I've been using. And even though I always pay the extra couple of dollars or the extra dollar or two, and I also transfer a decent amount of money. And what I mean by a decent amount of money, I'm not just transferring $100 or $200. I usually transfer at least $1,000 to my Mexican bank account so I can have that available in my Mexican bank account. So I trust Wise. That's why. And I would rather pay an extra $3 to transfer $1,000 and make sure it's safe and it shows up in my Mexican bank account. I don't care if I have to pay $3 extra. But if you're really on a tight budget and you need to save, the top three that I would use is either Wise, Remitly, or XE. Those are the established companies. Those are the companies that have been around for a long time. Okay, so I would use them. And Zoom, yes, they're run by PayPal, an established company, and I would say Zoom is safe. I mean, I would use Zoom, and I have used Zoom. The only problem is with Zoom, and that I've really don't agree with is their exchange rate. I mean, literally, it's off by 1 peso the last couple of times I used it. When the exchange rate was, I think, 19 at one point, and I used Zoom and it was like at 18.1 or something like that. They really do mess you over on the exchange rate. Let me see here. Hey, Jesse. Yeah, everything's doing great. Thank you. John Kent, I use Remitly to transfer money to Mercado Pago. Mercado Pago is part of Mercado Libre, and it's another card, just like the spin card that you can transfer money into and use to buy stuff here in Mexico. That is a legitimate Mexican credit card. Okay. Uh, yes, I've seen lots of comparison from Remitly and Wise, and they're very close. Um, Here's the thing with Remitly and Wise. A lot of times you'll get the same exchange rate, but then you got to remember Wise charges you a fee and Remitly charges you a fee. If the exchange rate is exactly the same, Remitly comes out a little bit cheaper because their transfer fees are a little bit cheaper than Wise. So you might be getting the same exchange rate, but you got to look at the fees. The cool thing about Wise is you go into the app and you say, I want to transfer $500, and it'll tell you the exchange rate, but it'll also tell you how many pesos you're going to get on the other side. Uh, you might want to do that. I think Remitly does that too. And you can see which one am I going to get more pesos out of. Um, and if I had the time, I would probably use both apps. I have both apps downloaded. I for some reason I just trust Wise. That's just the way it is with me. You were getting hammered with ATM withdrawal exchange a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, Lance, that's the thing. You need to find. I have two I have Plains Capital Bank and also Charles Schwab. Charles Schwab, they will take out the ATM fees. Of course, at the ATM, you're going to have to pay them, but Charles Schwab will reimburse you for the ATM fees. That's why I was saying Charles Schwab is a solution to taking money out if you don't want to get a Mexican bank account. So let me see here. I'm not sure if I told you this, but when I went to Santander Bank here in the US, if I open an account here, I could automatically use it. The answer is no. Yeah, you can't, Tom, and I think you were the one that told me, that asked me this question. The reason why you can't is even though BBVA has banks in the United States. HSBC is, of course, Citibank is, what's the, Citibanco, I think, is the one that's Citibank. Uh, they all have branches, not all of them, but BBVA, like I bank at BBVA here in Mexico, but BBVA in Santander has U.S. banks. Some of them are from, well, Santander's from Spain, like you said, but Citibank's from the United States. HSBC is real big here in Mexico. They're all American banks. But you got to understand that when you bank in Mexico, you have to meet the Mexican banking regulations. Okay. So the Mexican banking regulations are different from the US banking regulations. So technically, BBVA in the United States is the same BBVA in Mexico, but they're two different entities. Okay. If that makes sense. Okay. And that's how banks work worldwide. You might find a BBVA in Spain, but you can't transfer your account. Now, what I didn't remember with BBVA in the United States when I first started here in Mexico is they give maybe we'll transfer the money for cheaper. Like instead of using Wise, you can transfer from your BBVA to BBVA and you get a better price. But the process is still the same. It's still an international wire. Okay. So it's not like you're transferring money from your Mexican account to your US. No, they actually wire the money to, but they might, instead of the transfer fee being $20 like a normal bank wire transfer, it's $3 because you're transferring it to the same bank and they're trying to give you a break because you're a customer on both sides. I mean, if that makes sense. Okay. So you need to make sure, you know, and actually, Michael, this is the perfect, this is the answer to your question, Tom. It's not backed by a Mexican financial institution such as the bank, the central bank in Mexico. Okay. So you, and the banking regulations. So that's why you can't do that. You had to look for an alternative see if it accepting merit. Not sure if it was temporary or that's still. I don't think they accept American Express anymore. I pay my CFE bill with my Mexican card, debit card, or Mexican credit card. Um, Let me see, Lance. Thoughts on Jack's trucks? Jack trucks. I'll tell you what, Lance. Hold on just one second. I need to just drink a thing of water, and these microphones pick it up, and of course because of my cancer. Okay, the thing, Lance, on the Jack trucks. Actually, I bought a BYD. They look exactly kind of like the same. They're Chinese. Um, and they're beautiful trucks. We have a friend. We have a friend that own, or two friends that own Jack trucks. One of our friends owns it for her business, and the other friend owns his. He uses it for personal and business use. They're beautiful trucks. The only thing that kind of got me is on the Drac. They're very well built. I'm very impressed. We bought two BYDs. I think I mentioned this the last time we sold our Jeep and we're able to buy with the we already had enough money to buy a new car, but with the money we got for the Jeep, because we were going to keep it, we were able to buy the smaller SUV. Actually, we bought the smaller SUV first. They're hybrids. Now the Jack is gasoline. I think the Jack sells a hybrid, but I don't know if they sell them here in Mexico. But what the we took a ride in the Jack truck, beautiful and very solid trucks. And I know that the only thing that kind of turned me off from it, and very inexpensive. The only thing is, and this is what our friend told us, is they only sell them in standard. So if you like to drive standard, I'm spoiled. I mean, I've driven standard for years, and I loved it when I was younger. But I guess I've gotten lazy. But that's the only catch. I don't know if they make automatics now, but when and this was about a year ago or 2 years ago, we took a ride in their Jack truck. Very well built. I mean, and the same thing with the BYD truck. I can't complain. As a matter of fact, more solid. My brother-in-law has a Ford F-150, and actually the BYD is a medium size, but he's got a full size F-150. And I'll tell you what, you just open and close the doors, and you can tell the difference in the quality. Um, and I'm happy with it. And actually, I haven't seen any of the other. I'm only familiar with Jack and BYD, and seen their vehicles. And now the other thing with the Jack trucks is I only believe they have a four-cylinder engine in it, and that there might be a horsepower issue there if you need horsepower. Um, and they actually told us that it was a four-cylinder. My BYD has a four-cylinder, but it runs off of it's a hybrid, and the electric mo actually 0 to 60 miles on a quarter mile, it can beat a Ford Ranger Raptor. So it's got enough power. But it's because it runs off the electric combination of electric and the four-cylinder engine. Actually, in my BYD truck, the engine mostly is used for charging the battery. The engine kicks on to charge the battery more than it does to actually the actual drive. It's all-wheel drive, but the actual motor that's used 99% of the time is the electric motor on the. Now it will kick in and use the gas motor, which is the front wheel drive. It'll assist in the front wheel drive, the front portion of the truck, if it needs power or extra, or you're in sport mode, or you're trying to beat a Ford Ranger Raptor on a quarter mile and you put it in sport mode, then it utilizes both motors. So so if the spin card from Moso is prepaid card, is there a limit that you can put on it, or is it unlimited? Actually, Tom, I am not sure on the spin card. I just know that we've had experience in using it by when we pay somebody to do a service. I don't know, maybe actually if Brett, if you're in there. Oh, okay. Brett actually tried to answer your question there. He doesn't know neither. Um, he uses it to pay Mexican. Actually, here's Brett's answer. I don't know. I put a lot on it. I use it to pay Mexico Amazon Prime. So I don't know if there's a limit. Uh, John, I only use Charles Schwab as an ATM card since they refund fees and give good exchange rate, but only transfer money to that account when I know I need it to have pesos. Yeah, and actually, I have another main bank account where everything's deposited into, and all I do is I have an allotment sent to my Charles Schwab card, and it's really easy because now in Mexico, more institutions are accepting Apple Pay, so I can actually pay with my phone. Um, and also, I just find it convenient. And also, I wanted to try it out, and it just worked out. So I just kept it because everybody talked about how great this Charles Schwab card was. So I opened up a Charles Schwab account. Very easy to do, and I just use it now for groceries. And it also helps me control or budget. And so if I have a certain amount and I can go into the app and say, hey, we only have $300 left for the month and for groceries or whatever. Or I'm not going to buy, I don't know, a bottle of tequila because, it helps me to budget actually by doing that. Actually, exactly what you do uh, is it helps me the same way, John. It helps me by uh, I can just put a limit on it. Actually, John, you can buy an Amazon Mexican to set up Prime. I think renewals just get charged to my bill. Actually, what I do, John, I have a US Amazon. I don't know if Amazon Prime is cheaper here in Mexico, but I have a US Amazon Prime because I do get stuff sent to the US. I actually use it in the US. I send packages to my son and then, go and pick them up, or I go send, like I'm in Monterrey right now. I'll go have packages sent to my brother in law and tell him, hey, bring them down when you're going to come visit. Or we just went to McAllen right now and we went and picked up stuff that I ordered. So I have a Mexican, but my Amazon Prime in the app, I just go over to the Mexican Amazon and it works in Mexico, Mexican Amazon, and it works in US Amazon. So I just pay for a US Amazon Prime account and it works in Mexico too. Now, here's the thing. If you don't have ties to the US or you permanently just moved, you might not want a US Amazon card, but that gets charged to my US card. So yeah, you enjoy, and you're probably it was Kuru Paul Spanish lessons. Yeah, he's a very good Spanish teacher and very good Spanish. And for somebody that just learned it, he went to school. He was a cop, and he just you know what? There's a lot of Cubans in my neighborhood, and I need to learn how to. And he went out to school and he learned it. And he not only learned it, but very, very well. He speaks Spanish better than I do. And I mean, I'm embarrassed because um, I come from a Spanish background, but I didn't practice it as much. But he knows proper Spanish. Probably a good idea keep US if you want to keep your US bank or credit union accounts open because, yeah, Tom, and I've also given solutions for that. I have a US cell phone. Here's what I do. I pay for Cricket, or I think other people use Visible. Some of these where you can get an unlimited data plan for or unlimited plan for $30. The reason I use Cricket because it's part of AT&T and it roams here on the AT&T towers. And I have a Cricket account. Not only that, what's really great about Cricket is they have the Wi-Fi calling. So if I need to call a 1-800 number because I still use my US insurance, I still have my banks, and I can call when I'm at a Wi-Fi connection, so I can actually call 1-800 numbers in the United States. And the other thing also is I have an unlimited data plan. So even though I have a cell phone number, I can use the unlimited data on AT&T when I have a good AT&T signal, so I'm not using up my Telcel data. And so it's very convenient for me. Yeah, it's an extra $30, but we're able to well, I think the Cricket plan, it's actually comes out to $40 because I have two lines. I think it's 60 plus an extra 20 every extra line. I don't remember. It might have changed, but I'm on an older plan. So I pay a little bit more, but I keep that. Now, the other thing that other people have done is use stuff like Google Voice. They'll port their number over to Google Voice, and then you can. The only problem with I've seen with Google Voice, and I had a Google Voice account before I came here, so I had a number already. You can get text messages and everything else to do your banking. The other thing, you will need some type of Google Voice or something. Magic Jack, I think people use that too, where they can receive text messages because sometimes, well, I even get text messages on my when they think, when they decline a charge and they think, oh, you're in Mexico. Was this you, the fraud department? If you maintain a US bank account, you're going to need a US phone number. It's the same thing with Mexico. What I do is I have a dual SIM. I mean, actually, I bought a Mexican iPhone. So I have eSIMs, both on my Cricket and on my Telcel. Now, with Telcel, you need to have a postpaid plan, but I have two eSIMs. The reason why I bought the Mexican phone is to have a physical SIM. So if we travel, I can buy the physical SIM at that place and then put that in. But you just basically need, that's my solution is if even if you have an iPhone with just eSIMs and you have two eSIMs, one for Telcel or one for 18, I think AT&T here, you can get an eSIM if you pay on a prepaid, but you have to prepay for a year or two. I think it's $3,000, 3,000 pesos for the whole year. That's $150, and you get like I don't know 2 gigabytes of data a month for that, or 5 gigabytes I think a day. I don't remember. It changes because I remember when I first got here and I signed up for a prepaid AT&T, but what I ended up doing is just going with a postpaid Telcel because that way I have Telcel and AT&T, which are the two major, and I can switch back and forth whoever I have. So if I don't have one service, I have the other. I have it on the other. John, Google Voice, yep, and you have the virtual phone number. And also, that's the other thing too. There, some institutions are getting very strict on using virtual phone numbers. So you need to, and I don't know how they figure it out. I don't know if there's a database or what, but you need to be careful with that too. So. Lance, if you open BVA, no, you can't. They're two separate banks. Yes, they're the same corporation, but two separate banks. One's a Mexican bank, one's a U.S. bank. Uh, your only thing that you may get, actually, when I opened a BBVA account, the only thing they gave me was discounts on transferring money from my US BBVA to Mexican BBVA, but Wise was still cheaper, even with the discount. And at one point, they were giving mortgages for Mexican property, but not anymore. So there's not really a benefit of that. Hey, Prophet, greetings. I use Finsta such as new and Plata card. Benefits are good, but I don't tie to in new. I prefer real banks such as Banorte and Bursa, and Hey offer great products. Thank you, and thank you for the donation, Profit. I appreciate it. That hundred pesos. Thank you. You know that kind of that's kind of cool. Thank you very much. Even though I don't do this for money, it's nice to know that I'm appreciated. Um, but yeah, here's my. I've always said this: don't tie too much money up in it. And it, like I said, if you can afford $100 and lose $100, I mean, I'm not saying that no one wants to lose $100, but if you tie up an amount of money, or it, this is what I say in crypto. I mean, I have cryptocurrency. I'm not gonna lie, but when I put money into cryptocurrency is this is what I tell people: only put in what you're willing to lose, because tomorrow, even, and I've seen crypto, my crypto portfolio has gone up. Oh my God. And if I would have sold it like maybe a couple of years ago, I would have made a lot of money, but now it's not worth that. But I don't care because my initial investment was practically nothing. And if it goes to zero or I lose it all, I already know. And so I just hold it in there and just hope it goes up one day. And, or maybe, you know, did I see Jose Arteaga's latest podcast, How to Get Mexican Without Financial Requirements in 2025 Guaranteed? No, I didn't, Blaine. Actually, I'd like to know what he's peddling this time. Um, he was the same person that said that all you have to do is show that you're retired, and and he even pointed to a lot the immigration law. But what he didn't point to was, and he is correct. The immigration law says in order to qualify for permanent residency, you have to show that. As a matter of fact, that's why when you go for permanent residency at some consulates, they require that you're of retirement age or you're retired. And then basically, it also says in the next part that you have to show that you are financially able to live. Well, he interpreted, not the interpretation of the Mexican government as, oh, well, Social Security is a living here in Mexico, so therefore you qualify. And it's not true. The financial solvency requirements are what qualifies you under that next section of the law. Okay, so I don't know, but, and now let me see. He's telling people to enter as a visitor, overstay, do border runs, stay under the radar until the RNEO. And this is this is the way people used to do it. This is the reason why there was an R&E program, because people were doing border runs, okay? And staying under the radar, you're not going to stay under the radar when you try to re-enter for the third or fourth time. It's in the computer, and you aren't guaranteed to get to 180 days. And and actually, I'm going to tell you the truth. Even on Jose, when he has that lawyer that comes on, and by the way, that lawyer's been in trouble before, and he's been in a lot of trouble with property scams. And I'm not going to go into it, but even his lawyer that comes on will tell you, even on that thing where he said you have to be retired, he's the one that said, oh, all you have to do is be retired because the law says this. Yeah, the law does say that. But even though he said that, he also uh, he also uh, said, yeah, but here's the bad news. You have to go through the consulate, and the consulate is the one that determines. And then, even on the border runs, he'll even have this attorney come in. I got an attorney telling you that this is true. Yeah, but the attorney even says, but you're not guaranteed 180 days. And here's the other problem, too. With the political climate right now, heaven knows if that's going to even be an option. Now, what I will tell you is that I see, and actually, I've even heard through the grapevine that INM is trying to come up with other methods. And maybe even these methods might be going to the UMA formula. The other methods may be, I don't know, maybe for US citizens, some type of humanitarian or asylum if it gets really people can claim they're being politically persecuted. We don't know, but there has been talk. Immigration isn't trying to be jerks here. uh, what they did was they basically said this is a program that's been around for a long, long time, and it wasn't made for this. It wasn't made for people to skirt the requirements. So we need to get not get rid of it, but we need to change it, and they changed it so that way it would actually meet their initial intention. The initial intention was to get all these people that were doing border runs and supposedly staying under the radar. Instead of doing border runs and running to the border every 6 months, we're going to help you out. Okay. But Mexico says we've been helping people out for the last, all those people that were doing that for the last 15, 20 years. You should have taken advantage of the program by now. And if you didn't take advantage of the program by now, we'll give you one last out, which is you've been here since 2022 and you haven't left, but no more. That's what the Mexican government is saying. But that doesn't mean they're not going to come up with other alternative ways. The thing that I do get upset is somebody telling you go do border runs and don't no do border runs, stay under the radar. Mexico doesn't care. That's where it's going to get people in trouble, and that's what I saw when they started cracking down. I saw an individual, and I always bring this up. He got stuck during. He went to Belize, and he wouldn't let him back in the country, and he couldn't. It was during COVID. He couldn't even go back to his home country because his home country wouldn't accept anybody, and he was stuck. And, you know, fine. It's easy for a YouTuber to tell you to do a border run and don't worry about it when he's got residency. He's married to a Mexican citizen. It's very easy to say that. He's not the one that has to pay the price when you don't get let back in. He's the one that doesn't have to pay the price when you left all your stuff in Mexico and you can't go back and get it. He's not the one that has to pay the price when you thought you were going to come back for 180 days and you have no ties back to your home country. And all of a sudden they tell you can only stay for 7 days. Because some of these times they tell you, you were going to give you 7 days so you can go get your stuff and get back out. Okay. And then the other thing is, and overstay your visa. Don't worry. Mexico's real lenient. That's not true. I've seen people get, and you don't want, and I've seen the facilities personally. You don't want to get tied up in one of those facilities, not even for a couple of days. And I know people that have been detained for up to 2, 3 months awaiting to get returned back to their country. So that's a bad, bad thing. And I'm sorry, I get kind of emotional about this because I hate it when YouTubers are trying to sell this idea. And they're not only trying to sell the idea, they're not trying to help you out. They're trying to get people to visit their channel so they can make more money. And the sad part is this guy, he's a hustler. He's a hard worker, and he doesn't need to be tricking people into watching his YouTube videos. As a matter of fact, he even came out with a YouTube video saying, you need more than a passport to get it. And then all he did was explain to you how you get an FMM. I mean, come on. Um, and I get clickbait because I do it myself. And but don't try to clickbait somebody by lying or literally, when I'll tell you what, I hate YouTube videos where I'm thinking I'm going to get some information and then I find out it's really not, you know, but he got his view and he made his money. So, and it's not a lot. So he's offering his attorney to help circumvent the system. I'm so furious content creators get away with this. Can anything be done? Actually, not Blaine, nothing can be done. And I'm going to tell you right now, his quote attorney's already in trouble for several things. Um, he's not the most straight person in the world. So, oh, just like you, I drove a stick for years when I was younger. Now, never, especially all the cobblestone streets in Ajijic and San Miguel. Yeah, Tom. Actually, I love stick. I felt I had more control when I drove stick. I actually preferred to drive stick, to be honest with you, especially like back in the day when I had a Mustang and all that stuff. I love stick shifts because it was a way of having more control. But unfortunately, I've gotten older, and the fun is I I rather drive an automatic. Yeah. Blaine, wow. He's always been sketch, but advising people to break the law, that's a wow moment. Yeah, and he always has. He's also the same guy that said you can punch a police officer and get away with it, and they won't do nothing. And if you have money, if you have $200, you can punch a police officer and you nothing will happen. He actually said that. He took the video down, I think, and actually he took the video down and he told people because he was getting more mainstream that he took a lot of his videos down because of content. What do you call it? Where you play music and he was told by YouTube to take them down, but it wasn't that. He was playing content. What do you call it? Royalty free music. It wasn't that. He was just trying to take away his radical videos like that. He actually even said if you had the right connections and were able to pay an immigration officer, you could get your papers done. That's how I got sideways with him, actually. Amazon, Amazon Prime and 99 pesos a month. That's cheap. And actually, Brett, I've actually been offered Amazon Prime for free, like with my Telmex account. Like if you get a certain speed on your Telmex, you get Amazon Prime for free. But I pay for it in Mexico. I've never tried it the other way around. I pay for it in the US because I actually utilize it in the US. Um, But thank you for bringing that up, Tom, Brett, not Tom, Brett. Thank you for bringing that up because I didn't know, like I told you, I didn't know the price. But I have just stuck with my Amazon card for whatever reason, for that reason that I always use it here. I need my YouTube TV. Will need a VPN or Starlink. Yeah, I haven't. You know what? I have never had. What do you call it? Luck with YouTube TV. I don't know if my iPads, because they have GPS, I've never been able to get the YouTube TV to work here, even with a VPN. But I've never tried. Now, you got to remember, like I said, I've tried to do it on my iPhone and my iPad, and they actually look for your location. My iPads, because I have the cellular on them, have GPS. So that's probably maybe why, even though I'm using a VPN. Some of the companies are getting kind of a little bit more not smart, but a little bit more aggressive at enforcing stuff. Let me see. Traveling mailbox. Yeah, et cetera. Your permanent address, you're filing federal income tax. Actually, a lot of people use traveling mailbox. John, I know that you bring up a good point. Requiring me to have a permanent U.S. address to file my. The IRS uses my mailing address, but have no experience with it. Actually, I don't know if it works with Social Security or Medicare, but I've never tried using any of these services because number one, I have a U.S. address of record, and I have everything sent there, and I have a way of getting it here. And second of all, even if I was using traveling mailbox, I would have a U.S. address to tie it to. So I don't know for people that don't, I don't know how it works out or not, to be honest with you. Anna, this is all very interesting. I have Schwab for the future. Great, Anna. Yeah, it's a good solution. I agree. It's a very good solution. Let's see here. Um, we've had a good little crowd. I mean, I usually get 30 or 40, but I think it's because it's the weekend and it's Sundays and people are used to my Sundays and maybe you don't see it. Um, if you are here for the first time, what you might want to do is just make sure you push that little notification button on my YouTube channel. It'll give you notifications when I schedule a live stream. Uh, um, and that way you'll know if I come up like on a Monday or Tuesday like this instead of on my Sunday. I have been a little bit erratic with the live streams, my videos. I haven't been doing videos. Um, and I've told you because of my personal health situations, my personal situation with my in-laws, all of that stuff. I've been kind of like, I think the last video I did was last year, sometime in October, November, maybe not even that, but I've been trying to keep up with these live streams. And and thank you very much for actually, I even went as far as subscribing to this online service. Actually, I like it, but I'm still going to be using my other software when I get home because I'm a lot more and I will keep this subscription because I really think it's it's useful for when I'm traveling because I can still one of my biggest problems even with the iPad and everything, there are some apps that let me do streaming, but the problem that I've had before in the past is that I can't bring up people's comments like I can, like right now, just right now, like this. And that's why I was so addicted to my other software. Even with OBS Studio, you can do that, but it's not as easy. And I don't like StreamYard, to be honest with you, because it's very simple. But and StreamYard lets you do this, but this is lets me put my little uh, my thing together, just kind of like I have my other software, and I'm not plugging the software, but I just tried this. It's called EVMux, EVMUX, and I love it. It's working really good, and I'm even able to do a virtual background. You'll probably see right. Oh, hold on. Right in here, you can see there's like part of my chair. It doesn't work the best. It kind of works like the virtual background. I don't have a green screen right now. I do have a green screen, but I didn't even think about putting it up till now. But it works really well for whatever reason, and just keeping my virtual background. So, and then I also am able to put my comments up here next to the uh, right over there. I'm able to put my comments up. So I really like it. And I'm going to stick with it when I'm traveling. And then I'm also able to run this on an iPad because it's browser based. And it sees my microphone and it sees my, and actually I have a microphone here in Monterrey, but even when I don't have a microphone, last week I used the little clip on microphone. So it works out. And we had a smaller crowd tonight, but like I told you, I always love small crowds because we're able to have more conversation here and and stuff like that. Lance Wise has $100 for 2,000.37 pesos for 175. Yeah, actually, Wise, I don't know what they're doing. Sometimes they have raised their prices and then lowered their prices. I think one time they actually had to raise their fees at one point because they were using a different processor that was charging them more. Uh, but the thing that I like about Wise, and I will think, yes, a better rate and a smaller fee. Yeah, they actually, I think I got an email saying they were going to lower their fees, but a lot of their fees have to do with their processors and stuff. Plus, they need to make money themselves. And so, but I just like Wise because it works. Okay. And yeah, Dollar App works, Kobe AI probably works, but I know it works and I know that they have a track record of working. Okay. It's not like, okay, it's going to work today, but maybe not tomorrow. Uh, I just know it works and I get my money pretty instantly. So, earning between the lives and your extra videos, the lives are more valuable. We get to interact with you that way. Both are great, but if you can only do one, choose live. Yeah, and that's what I'm doing, Blaine, because that way I can keep. And the other thing about the lives that I love about the lives is if there's breaking information, because what happened is I used to get breaking information, and then what would I do? I'd do a video, okay, and I'd have to spend the whole day doing the script and everything else. The lives, what's great about the lives is I can just come on live today or tomorrow. Let's say tomorrow in the morning I get some news, I can just schedule a live, and I can give you what I know real time. Uh, Now on the R&E program, when it went down, I was very tempted to go live. The only reason why I didn't go live is because I wanted to make sure, at the time that I got the information, I actually got it before it started getting released. by all the, and actually all the facilitators jumped on it really fast because, you know, that's their business. They want to tell everybody that I got the information first. I actually got the information from some government officials, and I already knew what was going to happen. And I started looking into it. And I even reached out to some of my contacts that were facilitators and said, "Hey, have you heard anything about this?" And they were like, well, there's some other facilitators that are saying something, this and that. So I wanted to make sure. And then the other thing is, I wasn't sure if it was only going to be in San Miguel de Allende or if it was going to be in the rest of the nation. So I wanted to hold off on that information, and I will. But if I have something, I can get on live, and I like it. And I'm always, when I'm traveling, I always have at least my iPad. And now with this solution, with an iPad, a webcam, actually, even in my iPad camera, if I want to use the webcam on my iPad camera, I have a better quality webcam with this. I can just get on and tell you guys what's going on. So that's why I'm keeping the lives going. I I'm hoping to get back into the video game pretty soon. But like I said, this live stuff is really working out. And the thing that I love about the lives, or that I'm really liking about the lives, is I get a crowd of about anywhere from 20 to 40 people, which is very manageable. I've seen live streams where there's hundreds and thousands of people, and I don't know how they do it because I like to try to answer everybody's questions and have interaction with everybody. So, look forward to me keeping up this live stuff. I mean, even if my channel goes, by the wayside of, hey, you know what, I have too much of a personal life to be continuing this. You know what? I'm going to keep doing lives. I want to keep you guys informed. I want to keep you guys informed. And just like I said, and what's great about these lives is people brought up, I didn't know that I don't keep track of Jose Arteaga's stuff. Um, and somebody just told me what happened, and I'm able to answer, hey, wait a second, time out. This is what he's pushing, and this is not right. Um, and that gives you a chance to say, "Hey, I heard this. Is it true?" And if I know if it's true, I'll tell you. If I know it is, and if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. I'm very big on that. And or if I tell you I'll find out, I'll find out. Um, and I also have some very good, knowledgeable people here. And I like to welcome Brett back because Brett's very knowledgeable. He's been living here in Mexico for a while, and he has a lot of answers to a lot of questions that I don't even have the answer to. And I have a couple of people that drop in that have been able to answer a lot of questions for me. So let me see here. Thanks for having the subject tonight. You and so many people here are a wealth of information because I'll figure it out eventually when I'm living in Mexico. So so many have TX Tom. Yeah, and I'm here to give you information, and that's what we want to get you the right information so that you can live here and live a good life here and enjoy it just as much as I do. Yeah, you do need an assistant, and that's what I'm glad that I don't have humongous crowds. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up tonight. I am under 2 hours. All right, great. I actually made almost made my goal of just being on an hour. uh, Thank you very much. And like I always say, stay safe and above all, stay informed. Thank you guys, and we'll see you hopefully on Sunday.